Well, Nikki, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for asking me.
You're so sweet. You run a website. It's y12sr.com. So it's yoga 12-step recovery. I'm so interested in this. I have spoken to people over the years that I've been doing this podcast over the last 5 years. I have met several people who get sober just off of yoga or through yoga, right? And so adding the 12-step component, magical. I cannot wait to hear how you run this process. Um, but before we jump in, I have a fun little game I like to play with my guests called the lightning round questions, which is a little misleading because it takes forever. But but the idea is that we provide some resources right up front. So if you're game,
I'm so game. Let's do it. Let's do it.
you're such a good sport. So do you have a favorite recovery book, or as the cool kids say, a favorite quit lit book?
Well, it changes, right?
Okay.
I'll tell you what my favorite book is right now, and it is just definitely very recovery related. It's called Whole Brain Living.
Ooh.
And the author of it is Dr. Jill Bolte Tayler. You may be familiar with her. She wrote a previous book called My Stroke of Insight. And she was talking about what happened.
Yes.
Yes, there was that viral TED talk and video
Yep.
around her work. Well, she's written this new book, and she's actually become a friend, a dear friend of mine. But this book,
Really?
yeah, this book is fabulous. Whole brain living. So that, and it does definitely relate to recovery. You know how in recovery we talk about the committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So this book basically, and what she's presenting in this book is how to make the committee work harmoniously and in concert with each other versus being in constant chaos and confusion and all of those kinds of things. How can they, because we need all of them, but how can we have them all work together harmoniously? Right. It's a beautiful, beautiful book, and it's my favorite one in recovery right now.
I love that. Did you have a favorite one when you first got sober? You got sober in 1987.
I got sober in
Ooh,
the first time.
the first time. You know, here's the thing I struggle with when it comes to this. You know, you and I are both 12-step oriented, right? When we got sober, there was nothing else but 12 steps, right? And this idea of continuous sobriety, right? And if you relapse, you have to, like, quote unquote reset your time. And it never sat well with me, because I'm like, like you mentioned, 8 years, and then another stint with 4 years, and then continuous sobriety since then.
Right.
But that 8 years happened. There was a lot of healing that happened during those 8 years.
That's right, which I'm deeply grateful and honored for. Right?
Yeah.
So deeply grateful. Right. So I'm with you on that. Right.
Yeah.
And then I'm okay with, time something, it's an illusion anyway.
Right. It is not. Yeah, it is not as important as just being sober. That's why the name of the podcast is One Day at a Time.
Yeah, yeah. I love that name. And I love you chose that name for the podcast. What I say to people all the time is that what I discovered in that process of the relapses was 8 years wasn't a long time to stay clean. And then 4 years where I did the next stint wasn't a long, even 21 years, which is where I am now with this, isn't a long time to stay clean. 24 hours is a long time to stay clean.
Ooh, that is deep. That is deep.
That's a long time to stay clean. Just for today.
Amen to that. Yeah, no, when I named the podcast, what was funny is I didn't know that ODOUT was not a common phrase, and people spell it differently. Some people count the A and some people don't. So I was like, oh, I wish I would have thought that through a little more, but that's okay. It's still one of my favorite sayings, but you are so right. 24 hours. That's all that matters.
Yep.
There are benefits to long-term sobriety, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Do you have a favorite go-to quote or mantra that you live by or were deeply affected by?
A favorite go-to quote?
I know that's like asking you to pick a favorite child.
Oh my That's right.
It's rude.
Um, don't ask that, right?
Who's my favorite child? You can think on it and come back, but one of my, obviously one day at a time. Another one that seems to come up a lot for me is progress, not perfection.
Yes,
Those
yeah.
of us with trauma responses tend to be perfectionists.
Yes, yeah. I have always, the one from program that, I come back to over and over again is just keep doing the next good, right, honest thing, right? You put one
Oh,
foot in front of the other and do the next good, right, honest thing, right? When I get confused, that's what I come back to, right?
I
Put
like that
one
one.
foot in front of the other, do the next good, right, honest thing. Yeah, I love that one.
That's a good one. I had to write that one down because I've heard next right thing for those of us who have short attention spans. Do the next I like that, but it's good, it's right, it's honest. I like that. Very good. Do you have, what is your regular self-care recovery routine? Like, do you attend 12-step meetings? I know you do we're going to definitely introduce people to your meetings, which I cannot wait to attend.
So, yes, I still attend 12-step meetings, and I love women's meetings,
Hmm.
right? So I have a regular women's meeting that I attend, um, and I do codependency work. So I do coda work as well as substance-based work.
Okay, so are you doing NA or AA or
I grew up in NA.
NA? Okay.
Right, right.
And
So
okay,
yeah,
so NA and CODA are your
in
primary.
NA and CODA primarily, but the women's group I do is AA, right? So
I mean, at the end of the day, you know, all roads lead back to is there was this old timer or long timer, as I like to call them now, that said that the solution is simple, it's spiritual, and it has nothing to do with the problem.
I love it.
Isn't that good? Yeah. Okay. So, and I have to endorse the women's meetings. 12 step in general, it's not the hotbed of mental health. So we need, one time my son came with me to a 12 step meeting. It was a mixed meeting. And this lady was making eyes at my son. I was like, But I told him, I go, the odds are good, but the goods are odd. So I don't know if you want to. So it's better for us to just stay to same-sex meetings,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, but I tell people all the time, when they, I hear that, but neither is church or neither are schools. None of those are hotbed for,
Right, neither is church. That is so funny. Listen, we're all a bunch of sinners. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, I love that. So how many meetings do you, well, so let me just rephrase, because I know you facilitate meetings. Is that a different experience for you than attending as an attendee?
No, because it's not really facilitation, not for Y12SR and what we do. And I know we'll get into that and I'll talk about it a little bit more. But when I am what I am in that context, or what anybody is in the Y12SR context, is what we call a space holder. Right? So
Mm,
it's not a facilitator, it's not a coach, it's not any of that. So when I am holding space in those meetings, I am, as my friend calls it, another bozo on the bus, right? I'm another person in that circle, and I share, and
yes.
it's
Okay.
all about all that. So it's a part of the healing process for me as well.
So you don't feel like you're on.
So
You're a participant.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
I love that.
peer support. It's just like
Man.
this meeting, it's peer-to-peer support.
Okay. And do you attend meetings where you do facilitate, where you are sort of?
No, I do a lot of teaching that's
Yes.
more in that
Got it.
domain, right?
Okay.
It's much more in that domain. But I don't count them as, that's more in the space of work.
Work.
versus the
Okay.
space of, supporting
Recovery.
myself and supporting my own recovery.
That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I love the idea of holding space. And for me, and you and I are in alignment when we talk about when we had our previous conversation of, yes, there's some surface issues, but what we're really getting to is the core, like what's underneath the addiction or the dysfunction. And in my mind, the purpose of addiction is distraction. What are we trying to distract from? And it's that underlying trauma. So I'm going to ask you a little more about that too. But I love the idea of holding space, because I find that, don't you find that when you validate somebody's feelings, whether it's fear, anger, sadness, whatever that it is, when it's validated and acknowledged, like we all just want to be seen and heard, they move to their own solutions.
That's right. That's right. Right. And I love the way that we kind of references. It's really spirit space, right?
Mm,
And energy will only move. Things will only move when it's safe. Energy will only move when it feels safe.
when it feels safe.
Right. And
Yeah.
so my work as a space holder is to do everything that I can to support, this sense of safety within this space so that energy can move. Right. And
Yes.
that's not me moving the energy. That's like
Right.
me, for me to think that, it was be like me thinking I can make shit grow. Right. I don't have that kind of juice. Right. Right. So it's spirit space. It's spirit
Yeah.
space. My job is to just hold the space as safe as possible so that
Yeah.
spirit can do the work.
Spirit
Right.
can do the
So
work,
spirit does
but
the
it
work.
does require our participation. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
And a
it's
willingness to show up. It's just like everything
right.
else, right?
Yeah. What do
Yeah.
you think about this idea? I'm very like conscious of the online recovery space that has evolved so much, and people are so offended by things like character defects and things like that. And I wonder, and this idea of powerlessness, and I'm always bringing people back to over alcohol. We're powerless over alcohol. And no, we don't control people like puppet masters, but we do. Our energy and our presence and who we are absolutely has an effect on others, right? You're holding safe, like you're such a clear channel, loving energy, holding that safe space. Like you do have impact and influence in that context. Would you agree with that?
I love the conversation that you were speaking to, particularly relative to powerlessness and some things like that. That's something
Mm-hmm.
that I hope to make, because I get asked that question a lot too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're particularly, I find it in contemplative communities, and there's always some angst or pushback or something with that word powerless.
Powerless.
And what I always say relative to it is the same thing. I mean, it's straight out of the big book, right? That powerlessness is not synonymous with helpless. And I think that that's where people get confused. When they say powerless, they think that mean helpless, right? But the
Right.
point is what powerlessness is speaking to, right, is telling the truth about
Yes.
what is. It's telling the truth about. There are things I'm powerless over. Like I said, I'm powerless over rain. I can't make it stop raining. I'm powerless over that. However, when I tell the truth about it, it's raining outside. Now I got a choice. I can choose to get an umbrella and keep moving and going outside. I can choose to stay home because that's what's best for me. Now that I've told the truth, there's choice. I'm empowered, right? But the truth is, I'm powerless over the rain, right?
Yes.
I cannot make it stop raining. And
Right.
that's what's true, right?
That's what's true.
And if I try and deny that, right, and I just go out,
Insanity.
this ass is going to get wet, right? you know, because I can't make it stop. So
Right.
once I accept powerlessness is not the same as helpless,
Right. Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
when people think it's synonymous with that, by admitting powerlessness, I become empowered. There's
Yeah.
possibility when
One
I
of
take
those beautiful paradoxes of recovery. Yeah. Once
another
we
one of those beautiful.
surrender to win.
Yeah.
I love that.
You remember the first time you heard that? Was it? I remember the first time I
I
heard
was
that.
like,
I'm like, what the fuck are they doing?
what are you talking
What are
about?
they talking about?
Oh, girl, there was many of those. Like when they said, like, I got the sponsor and I was all resentful. And she's like, oh, pray that they get everything that you want. And I'm like, you mean slash their tires? Right? What are you talking about? But it's so interesting. I quickly discovered something called A Course in Miracles. Are you
Oh
familiar?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm sure you
very
were. Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah. So back in like in 1994, I discovered Marianne Williamson, and she was doing all these lectures and she was explaining all this stuff. And I think I may have lost my point, but the idea of the opposite, that's what it was. It's like the thinking of God is 180 degrees away from the thinking of man. And so all my natural instincts, I had to learn to do the opposite.
Upside down. That's what
Upside
she uses
down.
that word a lot, right? Everything
Yeah.
upside down.
Upside down. Yeah. No, that's so good. Yeah. What, pray? What? But and now I understand that, you can't escape the same measuring stick that you judge others by, right? So if I'm judging this other person because they're selfish and they're irresponsible and blah, 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 then when I make a mistake, I receive that same sort of venom towards myself.
Oh my God. Yeah. What do we say? You spot it, you got it.
Oh my
Right?
God, I say that all the time. People are so, I thought I actually coined that. I'm a little disappointed you already knew that.
I love it. I love it. But I noticed how much, this is what you were speaking to, what it evoked in me, how much, when it's happening to me, I want mercy. But when it's
Mm,
happening to them,
what
I want
justice.
accountability. I want go get
Justice.
right, right. But
That
when it's
bitch needs to feel that same pain she caused me.
that's right. When it's happening to me, oh, forgive me. I need mercy. Right.
I need mercy. Oh yeah, I'm wrestling with a situation right now where I'm a little angry, but maybe mercy is the. I said a little prayer. I wasn't feeling it yet. I think need to say it a few more times.
That's what we have to do sometimes. We keep coming back. We keep coming back.
Yeah, yeah. Keep coming back to the solution. I love that. Was there one thing you wish you would have known when you first got sober?
I had this seeming expectation that there was some kind of linearity to it.
Oh, yeah. No linearity
There
to
is no
healing.
linearity, right? And I wish I had been clear that I had these expectations, right?
Boy.
And you know about expectations.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, right. And I did, right? And I think that part of that and the confusion and the unclear nature that I was in relative to that is what led me back to relapse, right? And I thought, once I got the house back and the car back and the kids back and all of those kinds of things that I had lost in the throes of the addictive behavior, that was going to be fulfilling. That would what would fulfill, right?
Yeah.
And none of that was true, right? I
Did
got the
you?
house back and the kids back and the car back and all of those, and grateful for that, but there was no real sense of inner purpose with that.
Right. Like it's so, I think everybody gets trapped in that thinking of once I get there, then I'll
That's
be happy.
that there
Right.
is a there,
That
right?
yeah. But there was like something called the rules for being human that said once you get there, you'll just acclimate and discover a new there to get to. And so, and I think it's, to temper it with a little bit of context, we're always evolving. So there's like, we're always evolving, but what you said about expectations, that once I get there, then I'll have peace, that is the trap.
Right, right. But there's a if then else, right? If I
Yeah.
do this, then this will happen, right? Like it's programmable,
Yeah.
right?
Linear.
And life doesn't work like that.
It's not
Right?
like that.
Life is
What did you, I kind of, what comes to mind, what comes up for me is like, okay, so did you find that you had the moment where you like got all the stuff back? And I'm sure there's many moments along the way where you're like, this isn't the thing. This isn't what brings me peace. Did you find the thing that brings you peace?
um it, well, I've found that it's for me, right, that it's not a thing. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Recognizing that there is no thing.
Maybe that was a poor choice of words. Is there like a concept or do you know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I've also found that that concepts has changed. It's part
Concepts.
of, for me, and you're right. That's what I did. I got the house back, the car back, and all the thing. I got the MBA. I got
Ooh.
yeah, I got all the degrees, right? I got the, the MBA. I got all the certifications.
Yeah.
All the
All the
shit,
validation.
all that stuff. I did all that, and still found myself at that place where societally, right, we support that, right, that there's something
Achieving, seeking.
external,
Yeah,
right, there's
external.
something external, right, and then it hit me after all that stuff. I got to this place that I recognized that, I was in that chase, right? The way
Yes.
I always look at addiction, and the way in the work that I do, we define addiction is as the disease of the lost self, right?
Ooh.
And anytime I look
Oh,
outside of myself for something that's only going to come from the inside,
the
right? When
loss.
looking outside of myself for something, then I'm setting up an addictive nature to whatever that is. Like I've said, in proof in this, I have been addicted to Nordstrom's. You know what I mean?
I do. I do.
Right? It's that bag. If I get that bag, I
Yeah.
love bags,
Oh,
right?
me too.
I got stories about bags,
Oh, do you
right?
want to, like, what kinds? Like
Oh,
the,
I'll tell you what,
are you a
right?
friend of Louis?
I'm a friend of Prada.
Oh. Okay. I was scared for a second. I thought you were going to go Hermes.
No, I went Prada, right? And,
Okay.
and,
Okay.
and I'm not really even a Prada kind of girl. Bags I like are really funky, right?
Oh,
I like canvas. I
yeah.
like, I like that kind of thing, right?
Okay. Okay. But
Oh,
nice.
and all those, right? Right.
Nice.
So I was in this place, and I'm now in a period of 21 years of recovery, continuous recovery after 2 relapses. And I'm in this period. So I'm in this period, and I'm in about 10 years into this 21-year period that I'm in now. And I was into my workaholism, right? I was into, and I knew it because my relationships were about to get affected, were getting affected, and all these things, right? I was using that, like we said before, I can use anything, a distraction for anything. So I was in this workaholism, and my beloved, right, planned this trip, and it was a trip he saw what I was doing and all this, and so he planned this whole trip, and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong with this trip. And I'll make the long story short.
I hate it when that happens.
Everything that could have gone wrong. So I was in the workaholism, and before I could let myself relax on this trip, I had one more thing to do. And so we took the flight, we went to Florida, we were going to a resort, and the plane was late. We got stuck in weather, all that kind of stuff. And I couldn't finish the webinar, right? I had to get to the airport, find a lounge, so it was just and I was eating like shit, right? All these,
Salty or sweet? No, please swear. It's fine.
Sweet.
Sweet.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
just
me.
and
Sure.
one after another. So not me. Right. And so I was in all that. Everything was wrong. I was just bitching at him. Right. It was awful. It was really awful. So we get to the resort and we're driving up, and what I see next door to the resort we're staying in is the premium designer discount mall. And my whole being went, because I knew next day I was going to get a hit.
All right. Yeah,
And
it's gonna be
over,
okay.
I went over there and I bought like this crazy expensive Prada bag. Right. Got my hit. Right. Like, really.
Yeah.
I hit, and it did just what I did with alcohol.
Yep.
I hit it. Right.
Oh, you
just what I did with alcohol and drugs. Right.
Yeah.
How was I going to tell somebody I spent all this money on a crazy amount of money on this bag? Right. And I hit it in the whole 9 yards. And when I finally got home, someone asked me, how was your trip? And it hit me. I'm in relapse. I'm in relapse. Right. And I recognize if I didn't do something about that, right, if I didn't recognize that, it was going to lead me back somewhere down the road to what I really go for, which is drugs and alcohol. If I didn't do something with that, that was inside, to let me know I was in relapse.
Yeah, that's man, those red flags, everybody's red flags are different, right? And that's
I was looking for that external thing, and it did. It soothed me and gave me comfort, and all. It was like a hit.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
and I felt like it.
Well, it coupled with the sneaking part, right? The shameful sneaking, hiding.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to state for the record, I'm a Louis Vuitton girl, and I have done the same thing. In the justifications and the rationalizations, and I'm like, it's fine because blah 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 blah. It's not fine. I'm trying to fix myself and hide behind
from the outside.
Yeah.
Something that can only come from the inside, right? And so that is the so it's not a thing. It's not it's just being in deep relationship with myself and my being, right? And being in deep relationship with spirit, right? That's what,
the relationship with spirit. I'm going to kind of shift gears a little bit to share with our audience a little bit about where you came from. Like, I talked about like resolving trauma, and I've had a fair share, and listen, I don't think you get to, I'm in my 50s. I don't think you get to where we're at without a little something. But where did your journey with the addiction come from?
God, there's so many ways.
I know that's a big question.
Yeah.
You answer that however you want.
Yeah. You know what? I usually speak to that. Of course, we're programmed and just set up to come into here, into this domain of existence, this plane of existence. Right. Truth is, I got great grandkids, right? I have 3 great grandkids. Yeah.
Wow. So recovery looks good on you.
Thank you. I got another one just about to be born. Right.
So exciting.
And I've been blessed enough to watch these kids being born, particularly the last one, my sweet one, my love of my life. Right. But she was born during COVID, so I wasn't there to be able to be there at her birth.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but that's okay. The one that's coming, I'm going to be there. Right?
That's awesome.
But her older sister, right? I was there, and I got a picture of me that I'm holding her, and she's 2 hours old, right? And she can't tell herself from anything, right? She can't tell herself. She can't distinguish herself from anything else. She's completely right brain, right? She's in that right brain. Your left brain, Dr. Jill talks about this. The left brain doesn't come online to like you're about 7 months old. But when it starts to come online, we start getting programmed, right? We start getting, the programming happens. And the program is set up like the Matrix.
Right.
I always say that's what we're in the Matrix.
We are. That movie was very profound. I don't know. Yeah.
I watch it every year. I watch it once a year, right?
I
Because
do too.
we're in the Matrix, right?
We
And the
are.
Matrix is buying.
I mean, look at me. I'm literally plugged in.
Yep.
I am.
I love it. I love it. Right. And the matrix is binary. The matrix is this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, this is inferior, this is superior, this is lost, this is gain. We get programmed into all this stuff. Right. And I'm watching this beautiful little girl start to get programmed as she's, she can't tell herself from anything. She is just connected to all that is and all of that. And then we start getting the programming, right? She gets told, you're Black, right? You're Black, so you fit in this box, right? You're a girl, so you get fit in this box, right? And you start learning all these behaviors associated with the boxes that we get put in. And the boxes change because we're standing on a rock that's spinning in space. Everything's moving. It's moving and changing, right?
Yeah.
And so we get programmed into all of these things. And there's still a piece of us that knows, right, that we're connected to something different. And if you're one of those people, like I would assert a lot of addicts and alcoholics are, at the depth of your soul, you know this. You know that this is programming and that there is something right beyond all this programming, right? And I'm not dissing or faulting the program in itself. To live in this plane of existence, there are some things needed, right? There are some things needed. But we get kind of programmed into this is all there is, that right. This programming is all there is, right? And so, and my parents got programmed into it, and your parents you cannot not get programmed into that and be in the world. And at our depth, we know, like we always talk about in program, feeding the hole in your soul.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first time, like for me, I remember that I shot heroin. I'm like, I saw God. Right.
I bet you did.
Right?
Was that your first absorption of alcohol, of heroin? Was through you can snort it and smoke it, not in other things?
My first thing was alcohol, right?
Okay.
And when I discovered the first time I was drinking, was I really got loaded, was parts of myself that had been shut down.
Yeah.
I accessed again, right? There family stuff and family situations and programming in schools and all this kind of stuff. A part of my voice had been completely shut down and repressed. And I drank that alcohol and I got my voice back, right?
Funny how that happens. The governor comes off, the frontal cortex, and right. Watch out.
That's right. Right. And so, and then, I start chasing it. Right.
Yeah.
You get into the cycle and you start chasing.
The chase. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you lost the lost self. So where along the way, so you're using, how old were you when you first started drinking?
The first time I really started on this path was 13.
About 13 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it progressed to
I got
to heroin.
All these bad relationships and all the whole thing in 9 yards. And I was one of the what sometimes we talk about in the rooms, garbage can.
Yeah.
Kind of addicts, right? It didn't matter, right? I just didn't want to be here. Right. In this body. I just didn't want to be there. I wanted to be someplace that was not
here.
This right.
Yeah. Yeah. The unacceptable present moment, as we say. Something is happening right now I can't deal with. So
I'm out.
I'm out. Okay. So so we take it all the way to heroin, and then what happened that you got sober in 87?
Yeah, my real really the substance of choice for me was really cocaine. And what really took me down, particularly the first time, was it was all in the crack era.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all in
Crack
that.
cocaine.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Mhm. The
So was
first
there
time it is. Right?
it's always the first time. That's how they get you, the
That's
first time.
right. That's
First
right.
hit's free.
That's right. That's right. And then you start chasing it.
Oh man, the chase. Yeah, and I can do the chase on many other things, but
Yeah.
this is about you. So, what happened that you decided to get sober?
I, hit the hard crash
Okay.
of just everything started to go around. I lost my kids. I lost jobs. All the material thing, everything started to go.
Everything.
I lost, my very soul. Right.
Well,
Right.
there it
And
is.
like I said, it took me into commercial sex work. It took me into, all of those kinds of things. And ultimately, talk about the disease of the lost self.
Yeah,
Yeah.
complete
Yeah.
loss of self.
Yeah.
And did you get sober? So you hit rock bottom, and how was the solution presented to you?
Um, I I took myself into a treatment center. I was that far down that I recognized that I had to do something, right? It was a moment, I mean, a nanosecond of of clarity enough to know that if I didn't do something, I was going to die. And so there was a piece of me that was still present that, I always say I was one of those hope to die kind of addicts.
Mhm.
Um, but there was a piece in me that knew that I didn't want to die. And for one instance, I listened to that piece.
That still
And
small voice that was like, we need to do
I
something.
listened to that piece. And I ended up checking myself into a treatment center.
Where did I mean, in 87, maybe it was a little bit different, but where did you have the resources to like, doesn't that typically require like insurance and money and
Yeah, yeah. And there were still people in my life that loved me enough
Hmm,
in order to support me when I said I was ready to
okay.
go into a treatment center. And truth is, at that point in time, I had a job, right? I still had a job, right?
Okay.
And I had enough from between that and
Okay.
the people in my life to go into a treatment center. There are many others though that um and you're right. This one took resource, right, to get into. The fact that I did have insurance was a plus.
It's
Many other
amazing.
people I know are not that fortunate.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing that you had exposure to heroin and were still able to have your shit together enough to have a job with insurance.
Well,
That's
it was a little
amazing.
different. It was a little different in 1987.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't care
Yeah.
where you worked, you had insurance, right? It's not the
Okay.
same today. Yeah,
Okay, so you go to a treatment center and are exposed to 12 step and the whole thing. And
that's right.
okay. And is that what got you sober? Is doing 12 step work?
That's exactly what got me sober.
Did you do the whole thing? Like you found a sponsor, you read the book, you did all the
I did
steps.
the whole thing.
What? I mean, the 4 step for me was totally life changing. It was the first time I had the experience of, I called it the sorting process, right? Where you get to sort out all the stuff.
That's right.
And did you, when you were going to meetings and stuff, did you hear all the stories about how people are doing steps 1, 2, and 3 and relapsing?
Right.
Terrifying.
Yeah,
Yeah, terrifying.
yeah.
But so how did you choose your sponsor?
What they told me to do, you look for somebody who's got what you want,
Yeah.
right? Right. And I didn't know that what they really had, but I know that I wanted to at least look and sound like that.
Right.
Right. They had something.
They had something.
Right. Yeah. They had
Ti-
something.
Time and experience. So you found a lady, you worked the steps with a
Yeah.
woman? Okay. Yeah. I'm old school that way too. Women work with the women and the men work with the men. Yeah. And the reason that is because if like I was brand new and I met a woman and we had true intimacy for the very first time in the sense that she was open and honest and vulnerable and transparent and and she held safe space for me and I felt connected, right? For the maybe the like I felt seen and heard and understood for the first time in my whole life. And I could see that if a woman is working with a man, how confusing that would be. It would be so easy to confuse it with love,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it's important that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
I feel like that's why it's important.
It's really tricky. It
Yeah.
really, yeah. It, one of my teachers always says the answer is it depends,
It
right?
depends.
Right. The answer
Yes.
to everything is it depends. It depends,
Yeah.
right? Because I have seen folks, it's with everything. I can have seen folks take um man or what we generally speak of in terms of masculine energy
Mhm.
and feminine energy, and have that coupled in a real clear way that has been beneficial
Mhm.
for their recovery. I've also seen it flip the other way,
Right.
right? Where you know to what we generally speak of in terms of feminine energy, right? That those two people work together, and it turns into a backbiting. It turns
Oof. Yeah.
into some things that don't support sustainable recovery, right? So I kind of think the
That's
answer to
true.
that is it depends.
It depends. Very good. Yes, very good. Okay, so but you did find a female sponsor. You did the inventory. What did you have a good experience with that?
I had a transformative experience
Yes.
with that, right?
Yeah.
Right,
Transformative.
right. I really did. It was so revealing.
Oh yeah.
It
Yeah. I
was
mean,
so
did,
revealing. And it took out a lot of the blame, right?
mm-hmm.
It took a lot. It took, it was just so revealing.
Yeah. All the patterns
Yeah,
emerge during that
yeah,
process.
yeah.
A lot of healing. Um, I in this for the sake of time, I want to be sure that I fit in everything. So 12 steps amazing, you recover.
12 steps amazing. The most amazing of the 12 steps for me are 6 and 7. I'll have to say that.
Seven's like my favorite. Nobody ever
Yeah,
talks about seven.
6 and 7 are my 6 and 7. I would assert is where you live.
Yeah.
12 steps. You live there,
Yeah.
right? And you can have a problem with character defects if you want to, right? Call it maladaptive behaviors or call it whatever the hell you want, right?
Right.
But we're revealing those all the time, right?
Yeah.
You live right there, right?
Yeah.
And if you're, it's just that's where we start doing in yoga, right? The term one of the phrases that I love is examining your conditioning is our ticket to freedom. Examining
Ooh,
our conditioning is our ticket to. One of my teachers says that all the time.
that's
Right?
deep.
I know. And 6 and 7 is where you're doing that. You're
Hmm.
examining all that stuff that's been thrown on top of you, right? Like
Right.
my great grandbaby, all this programming that's been thrown
Right.
on. Sooner or later, we
Yeah.
have to examine that conditioning. And 6 and 7 are the place where we generally live to do
Yeah.
the exam. Those are my
Yeah,
favorites.
I like to think of the character defects as just the natural instincts that are a little out of balance, right? And of course, they can be a little or a lot. And but the seventh step in the 12 and 12, you can get it on if you go to aa.org, you can actually hear an audible version of step 7. And I went through probably 90 days of listening to it every day because it helped me to
Oh,
stay right size. It helped me to prioritize. Like I get my priorities get confused. I got a little bit of workaholism and things, lots of things. I get confused about what my primary purpose is, right? And step 7 is like it's humbling without being humiliated.
that's right. I love
Yeah. Yeah. The
I
humility
love
thing.
the word cultivating humility, you know,
Yeah.
cultivating that
Cultivating
kind of thing.
humility.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it showed up in like priorities and purpose. Like that keeps bringing me back to getting grounded.
I love.
I want to transition
Okay.
to the yoga 12-step recovery. I was going to go last night and I went off the deep end and missed it. So I'm going to try again. Try again this week. But tell me more about the concept and how people can get involved with you and the organization as a whole.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and we're talking about this a little bit earlier, my history and kind of where it came from. So I was clean for 8 years in a relapse, and then I was clean for 4 years and I relapsed again, right? And it was what I discovered after that second relapse. One point, the first 8 years, it was all 12 step, right? And then you know, here's the truth, right? You been in rooms for as long as I have, and you hear the same shit over and over.
Over and over.
I can't take it.
I know.
Well, when I'm in a framework, when I'm in a headset, right? I
Yeah.
can't take this shit anymore out here, right?
Right,
So
right.
I left 12 step and found yoga, right?
Okay.
And then, you know, I started noticing how all this stuff that I was reading as I was studying yoga really related to 12 step, right? And I started doing all this thing. I'm like, damn, I flip a page of a yoga book and I go, damn, that sounds like the 12 step program. And I
Yeah.
flip another page in the yoga, damn, that sounds like the 12 step program, right? And so for a little while, I got confused that yoga could replace just studying this philosophy and doing this work on the mat, which is phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Part of the idea, and this comes in trauma healing as well, the issues live in our tissues,
Yeah.
right? They live in our tissues, right? And
Yes.
we can talk, you know, show ways that that is really true, right? And so I was doing all that work and finding all this healing and work within that. And ultimately, that's all I did. A lot of what I did for 4 years after that first relapse. And then I relapsed again, right? After 4 years. And I'm like, WTF, right?
Right. So
What is going
frustrating.
on? I'd had all this education. I knew I was smart intellectually. It was there, and the whole 9 yards, and all of this, and it just didn't make sense to me. And then I recognized, at least for someone like me, that these two things there needed to be a coupleship between them, that they needed to be deeply, deeply integrated and connected, right? And not in separate boxes. And that was when the Y12SR stuff was formed, the Yoga 12-step recovery was formed. And I always say that for me, and you know, over the course of these years, I have worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who are just like me, right? That they need this other deep level of coupleship between the cognitive work, which the 12 steps are brilliant for. Brilliant,
Brilliant. Brilliant.
brilliant, brilliant, right? For the cognitive work. And what's also, at least for folks like me, need is this somatic work. The both things that coupleship is really necessary and required. And so that's what Y12SR does. It deeply couples the cognitive work of 12 steps with the somatic work of yoga, with the soma and the somatic work that's there. And you know, like I've said, over the course of the years, I've seen this and it's never a replacement for 12 steps.
Right.
We read a format at the beginning of Y12SR meetings and specifically say, this is not a replacement for 12 steps, a sponsor, or any other part of a 12-step program. It's an adjunct, right? Providing what we believe is another helpful tool in the physical, mental, and spiritual disease of addiction. Right?
You know what just came to me? It's like soap and water together.
Brilliant. Right? Clean freaking
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah. Let's get clean.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the somatic piece. Like I'm obsessed with this neurobiologist from Stanford. His name is Dr. Andrew Huberman. It doesn't hurt that he's super hot, but he has great information. And he gave us analogies like if you take away the skin and bones and muscle and everything and organs, what you're left with is your mind and all the nervous system. It's like a silhouette of the body, and it's like it's the nervous system. And I was like, of course, like it just made that final connection for me. It's like, of course, like the mind and the body are not separate, right? The nervous tissue is in every square inch of your body.
That's right. That's right.
I was like, okay, I get it.
Separate, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
cannot be separate.
It isn't. It just
Yeah,
isn't.
right,
Yeah.
right. And
Now I get it.
that's kind of the matrix thing.
Yeah.
We like to separate
We
everything,
like to
put it
separate.
in its separate box, right? Body over here, mind over here, right? Right. Spirit over there. I mean, even if you look at our systems, they're set up that way. If
Yeah.
you have a problem in body, right, that's the
MD.
internists, the
Yeah.
MDs. Problem with mind, that's those folks over there in psychotherapy and the right spirit. It may be theology, it's in that realm, but they don't talk to each other, right? There's no interconnection between those things.
Yeah.
Right? This is that recognition that there is no separation between the body, the
Right.
mind. It's all the same thing.
Yeah. And that was kind of an idea of the Course in Miracles, is that the ego wants to tell you the lie is that we're separate from each other. We're not.
Yeah.
Because if you spot it, you got it. Oh my God, Nikki, I could talk to you forever. We only got a couple more minutes. This is amazing. I can't, well, I'm going to come to your meeting. You do it at 6:00 Eastern, which is 4:00 my time, which is perfect.
On Monday nights.
Just Mondays?
Well, no, actually, they're Y12SRs.
Oh, yeah, I found there's some in Boise here where I'm at. Yeah.
There's tons of them.
There's
now.
tons. Yeah, but I want to come to your class.
The one that I do online is 6:00 on Monday evenings.
6:00, 6:00 Eastern.
Eastern, yeah, 6
Monday. And a list of all, oh my gosh, there are so many classes available, like every single day of the week, all day, from all over the place, in person, online. I love those. And it's at the y12sr.com site. There's a thing.
There's a tab for meetings.
A tab just for meetings.
Yeah.
I'm digging the online world. I mean, I'm an extroverted introvert. So when they were like, everybody's got to stay home, I was like, sweet. I was so happy.
I'm like you. I am really too.
I didn't used to be. I used to be an extroverted extrovert, and I don't know what happened. I just got burnt the fuck out. Yeah. I just got burnt out along the way somewhere, and I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm currently in my pajamas and I don't have a problem. And hey, you're going to the She Recovers event in Miami in April, is that right?
I am.
Girl, I'm gonna give you a hug. Brace yourself.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. Nikki, thank you so much for your time. You are
so sweet to meet you. It feels like I just do all the virtual domain and the virtual world. I still feel very connected.
Me too. Thank you so much. You have an amazing day, and I can't wait to see you in your class.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, sweetie. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye for now.